things, tables of things from scratch. So I've created a new application called Recipes, and this is a very plain application. I did not use master detail, I did not use anything fancy, it's just a blank application. Okay, so from here on we're gonna do a couple of things. In here I'm gonna delete this hello world, and I'm gonna set up the screen of my Android application to have a table view, which I picked from Composite. A list view, that's what they're called. So I drag the list view over here, just drop it there, try to fit it, and then it self-adjusts. That's the basic list view. Now we can take a look at the XML that has been generated. There's a relative layout, which is how you put things in the screen, what is their order, and then within it there's a list view. Okay, now I'm going to open the main activity here, which is the main Java source file. So remember, this is an XML file. I'm going to go to source, the package that I created when I created the application, and open the main activity. In the main activity, you'll see that the onCreate event is overridden. This is what happens right after right after that window is about to show on the phone or in the tablet. And we can see that the set content view, which is basically the first screen that's going to be shown, is r.layout.activity recipes, which is the same name as this XML file over here. Okay, so we just prove that. Now, now each of these cells in this list in my application will have an image and text. So not text and then smaller text, but an image and text. So I need to create these cells. And cells, just like anything else, are views, they're layouts. So in this resource layout, I'm going to create a new XML file, and I will say new. I could say just a plain file, that would be fine, but then for assistance I can go to other and then say Android XML layout file. And then I'm going to call it list item layout, because it's going to be a list item. So each one of those lists, each row of those lists. Okay? And it's going to be a relative layout, because I'm going to put stuff in there. Let's see, relative layout. I'll finish that. And that it shows a phone screen, but what I'm actually going to design there is I'm going to put an image view here and then a text view over here. Okay, and I can do that just editing the XML as opposed to to going in there. So I'm going to go to the XML. This is my relative layout. It's empty, as you can see. So here I'm going to add an image view and a text view. Image view to hold the image, text view to hold the text. So I can write the XML just like that, or what I can do is I can say image view and then text view. I can do this graphically. I've just copied this, so take a look at this. This XML file. The most important thing here to notice is that this ID is list/thumb. Remember that, list/thumb, list/text. Okay, this will become very important when we refer to these things later in the code. So then I'll save this. Let's save this. I'll also save this activity, which I have not saved yet. Okay, so I can go to the graphical layout, and I'll see, there's an image view with a little triangle, and then there's the text view over here, and they're aligned in the middle. Okay. Now the other thing that I want to do to I've designed the row. So I have the components of my view in the model view controller pretty much set. I need to do something with the controller now. But the other thing that I want to set up is in the other end, the model. And for the models, I'm going to have data, right? So what's going to be my data? Okay, what's going to be my data? I'm going to create a set of strings and a set of images and a set of descriptions for recipes. Okay, and that'll be my data. I'll create them here in the strings, so I can say menu, not menu, sorry, values, strings.xml. I'm going to create a bunch of strings, and that's going to be my data. It could be anything else, right? It could be from a database, from wherever, but for simplicity, I'm going to go here. I could add a string the way I did in the other video, or I can just copy some XML values for a string, which is what I'm going to do. Okay? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm copying a set of XML values from a string. So I've created a recipe 1, which is the name of one recipe, albondiga soup, recipe 2, which is oxtail soup, recipe 3, etc., up to recipe 7. And then I've created a description. Description 1, albondiga soup is a traditional Mexican meatball soup, and then all of this, right? Notice the escape characters. Now, what I've done is for each recipe, I have a corresponding description. That's what I have. What I need now is the images. So the way you work with images, I save this file, the way you work with images is you can drag them into any of these drawable directories. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I have the images here ready, and I'm going to get all of these. So that one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. They're the images that correspond to recipes. I'm just going to drag them to my drawable LDPI, so it's lower resolution than the HDPI, and I'm going to copy the files. So I have my images, and now I have my textual data. So I have all of my data set up. Now the next thing that I want to set up is a data source. Remember, we're in view, model view controller. We created the view with the subcomponent, which is the row. Now we're creating the data, so we can now create the model. Okay, the model is basically a data source, some data source class that can access this data. Okay, so I'm going to create this class here. New. This is a regular Java class, which is going to be called recipes data source. Okay. And it's going to finish. I'm going to finish this right here. In this recipes data source, I will actually create 3 array lists, one for each piece of data, one for the titles of the recipes, one for the textual recipe, and one for the images, okay? Because I just want to have references to these resources. So I'll create those private array list enter photo pool private array list integer description pool private array list integer, and then the dishes, right? The name of the dishes pool. So I've created this, my class is those. Array list is not recognized yet, but if I control space, it will be imported and then it's recognized. Now, I'm going to create a few methods, right? So get dishes pool, so the getters and setters, right? So just the getters actually. So I can go to source, generate getters and setters, and just for all of these, just the getters. Just the getters. Say OK. Now I have the getters there. And then I'm going to add the constructor. Public list app data. Not list app data source. Wrong class. Public recipes data source. That's a constructor. What I'm gonna initialize this array list, right? So photo pool equals new array list of integers. Same thing for description. description pool equals new array list of integers, and then dishes pool. I control space, that auto completes almost everything. Like I can control space here, and Eclipse knows that I need an array list to initialize this, right? Oops. Now if I put new and autocomplete, that's going to create the whole new statement for me. Okay? And then we need to set up, so we just have array lists that are empty. Now we need to load them with data. So we're going to create 3 functions that I'm also going to call from the controller. Okay, that are going to be set up photo pool, set up dishes pool, and set up description pool. I have not coded these functions yet, but I will need to set them up. So the way you code this is, for example, let's do the setup photo pool. Public void setup photo pool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put each reference to the images I have here in my array list of photos. So, and the thing here is I have to respect the order. I have to put the image that goes with the dish, that goes with the description in the first one, so in the second one and third. They have to match. So I'm going to say photo pool, which is my array list, add, and then I use the R object. R is it's a link to all my XML files. So R dot, and then it's in drawable. All my images are in drawable dot, and then I'll say albondigas. That's fine. That's the first one. The first one's going to be albondigas. Then photo pool add R dot drawable, again autocomplete here. Drawable dot. The next one's going to be beef. Like beef. Then photo pool add R dot drawable dot. Again, it's a beef brisket now. That's the third one. Photo pool add. I don't know this by heart. I'm actually looking at a cheat sheet of which one goes first, because I really want to match positions of pictures and positions of recipes and positions of dishes. Okay, so drawable, after beef brisket I have goulash. Then photo pool add R dot drawable dot kebabs, and then photo pool dot add R dot drawable dot. Last image is oxtail. So I have loaded my photo pool. In the same fashion, I can load my public void setup dishes pool, right? Notice how up here now the function is not read anymore because it exists. Set up dishes pool, and then I'm going to say right now, just so I don't have errors, public void setup description pool. Okay, so I have those, and now for the dishes pool, I'm going to say dishes pool add R dot, and then the dishes pool, they're in the string, so it's R dot string dot, and then it's dishes, so it's recipe 1, and then this thing times 7 basically. So I'm just gonna oops. So there, paste. So recipe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then the same thing for descriptions. Same thing for descriptions. I'm creating a description pool. Add R dot string dot, and then description 1 through 7. Okay. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So now I have an object that can access my data and provide a description pool of the resources that my data points to. This can be, instead of the setups and stuff, you can just connect to your database or something like that. I'm going to add another method here that returns the number of data elements that I have. So public int, and I'll call it get data source length. Get data source length, and that is going to be returned, say photo. All the pools are the same, so photo pool dot size will actually give me the number of elements in this database. So now I have set up my model. I have a model and my view. The next step will be the controller. All right. So let's look at the controller now. I have a model, I have a view. Now, for the view, before I code the controller, for the view to actually load up the model, the data model, I need to create what's called an adapter. Okay, an adapter sits between the data source and the view. Okay, so an adapter is a class that extends the base adapter. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to create another class, for example, new class, and this is going to be recipes data source adapter. And it's going to inherit from the base adapter, the Android base adapter class. Okay? I'm going to inherit the abstract methods. That's good. Finish. And these are the methods that I have to implement. Okay? So there are a few ones that are really easy to implement. But first, I want to the data source adapter, first it needs to be tied to a context or a layout. So I'm going to have a private variable here that denotes that. Private context, that's going to be an Android context. My context. Then private, I'm going to have a layout inflator. A layout inflator. What this does is it can actually bring a layout and bring it as an object, so I can access elements in that object as well. And then I'm going to have a data source, right? So a model class, and that's going to be a recipes data source, and that's going to be my data source. Okay, so I have tied these things neatly together. So when I say get count, this is a method that the adapter needs to load the table, and it should return the count. How many numbers are there? So that's going to be my data source dot get data source length, is how many elements are there. For now, we're going to leave get item and get item ID being the exact same as they were, because we're not using them. But then the table, when it loads, it calls this get view method for each row that it loads, and that is one that we're going to code a little bit more. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say we're going to create an image view handle here, thumbnail, that's going to be my image view, control space there to import. I'm going to create a text view. Text view is going to be name, the name of the recipe. So I have these empty handles that I'm going to tie to the XML, and then I'm going to put information in them, and then put in the XML which represent each row. So first I'm going to say if convert view, which is this parameter here, right? So if the cell that I need to return is null, meaning it's not cached, then what I'm going to say is convert view, going to be my inflator, right? Dot inflate r dot layout dot list item layout. So basically, if the cell, if I don't have any cell cached, I'm going to get it from the XML that contains the layouts for the cell. Okay, and then I'm going to say parent here. Then once I do that, I'm going to say thumbnail is going to be an image view coming from this list item layout XML that now has been loaded to my convert view, right? So an image view coming from my convert view, and I find that image view by just saying, whoops, my convert view, and I find that by saying find view by ID, and the ID, remember, it was r dot list, I believe, list dot thumb. Remember that in the XML it was add plus list / thumb. So I refer to this r dot list dot thumb, and then so that's a thumbnail. I'm going to set the image now. Thumbnail dot set image resource, and the resource ID is going to be my data source. Whoops, right? My data source dot get, and this is the photo pool, right? Get photo pool, that is the array list, and then get, and then the index here, which is going to be this position that is being requested. So for each position, for each row, this method is called. So what I'm going to return as an image resource is the image resource that is pointed to in the same position, but the array list. We do the same thing for the text. So my name is going to be a text view convert view dot find view by ID, and then the ID here is r dot list dot text, right? So that is get a handle for that text view that's in that cell, and then name dot set text. It's going to be my data source dot get, this is the name of the dishes, so get dishes pool dot get position, so the element of the dishes pool at the position being requested. And then what I do at the end is I return this convert view, which is the cell. Return the convert view. Okay? So now I have created an adapter. This will interact with my data model to actually get the data model with methods that the actual view will call upon loading. So that's how we tie the two of them. We're going to run this, and we're going to see how far we've gone so far. That is not nice. What happens is that we have a model, we have a view, and we have a controller, but we haven't glued them together. The main activity here, the recipes activities, is the one that starts the whole thing, and we haven't told it to do anything yet. So I'm going to quit this guy. So let's try and tell it what to do. All right. So in my recipes activities, I probably want to use the adapter. Okay. And the way we do that is actually by first we need, in my recipes activities, I need a handle to my data source. So I'm going to say private The data source is called recipes data source. Recipes data source, that's correct. Private recipes data source, what's the problem here? Right, private data source, I'm sorry, my data source, DS, how about that? DS for data source. Now in my onCreate method, I want to instantiate this data source, so I'm going to say data source equals new recipes data source. So now this has loaded, this has an access to the data that I had, right? And then I'm going to create a list view to get a handle for the list view in the layout. So I'm going to create another component here, private list view. I'm going to call it recipes list view. And in my onCreate method, I'm going to assign it to something. So recipes list view is going to be a list view, and then find view by ID, right? And the ID for my list view is r.id.listView1. That's what it was there. We can verify the XML that that's the case. So if I go to the activities recipes, the main one, right? ID/listView1, and then here I call it with RID listView1. So that's my list view. Now I have to set the adapter recipes list_view dot set adapter, okay? And then that's going to be a new recipes data source adapter, right? Now, the problem here is that the recipes data source adapter, when I create a new one, I'm going to go to data source adapter. When I create a new one, context, inflator, data, they're all null. So what I want is a constructor where I can pass parameters that I've already initialized, right? So in my recipes activities, I already initialized the data source, and I don't want to initialize it every time. So I'll initialize it there, and then I'll pass it here. Then the context, right? This class, this activity is the context. I would like to pass that activity here. So we're going to create a constructor on the recipes, okay, that will take those things. So in the adapter, I'm going to create a constructor here, public recipes data source adapter, and I'm going to give it a context, ctx, and a recipes data source ds. I'm going to give those things here. Do we need to give it an inflator? Let's see. Yeah, because here I'm calling that inflator, right? So we'll create that. So my context becomes ctx. Then data source becomes, my data source becomes ds, and then my inflator, it's going to be a new inflator. My inflator, it's going to be a new inflator. No, actually the inflator I'm going to get from the previous context. So you put something like this. You're going to create a layout inflator from the context that you got using get system service context that layout inflator service, because it's service. That's how you get it. So now we've initialized these things in data source adapter. In the main activity, we actually call this, and then recipes data source adapter, now I need to call it with the parameters. So this, which is a context, and ds, which is my data source. All right. Now I'll save this, and then I try to run it. list.ds. List.ds. So I'll save this. Oh, so let's see one thing here. So this. I have an error here, and I'm not sure what it is. One thing I've forgotten is here in the I'm not here. Well, we're gonna do this. We're gonna put false in this parameter. This will actually create loosely connected convert view objects. It's not something to worry about, but you'll need this for the project to work. So let's run it again. Let's see if this can run in the emulator. Run as Android application. It's installing the recipes APK. And we see the activity start with the list of of recipes. So that'll conclude this part of the video. The next video you'll learn how to add stuff to this list and how to go to the detail window too. Okay?